Board of Trustees. Begin with a roll call. Trustee Ron Wilson.
Here.
Trustee Walt Lashevsky.
Here.
Trustee Neil Gaynor.
Here.
Trustee Brad Houck.
Here.
Trustee Kent Maggard.
Here.
Trustee Keith Lincoln.
Here.
Trustee David Smith.
Here.
Trustee Hugh Connett.
Here.
Trustee Bob Lux is here. Trustee Paul Martin.
Here.
We have a quorum. We have an agenda. We will have a meeting. Okay, we'll begin with our invocation and our pledges of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we come to you today as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Help us to work diligently, always for the common good and in the best interest of those we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions, visions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance, to engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion with understanding, wisdom, and humility. Amen.
Amen.
If you wish, prior to reciting the pledges of allegiance, you may take an additional moment of silent prayer in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Shelley, do we have any comments from the public? Okay. Update from Region 8.
Can I make a comment?
Certainly, sir.
Can I speak as Walt Lashevsky, a resident of Panther Creek?
Yes, you can.
Okay. You know, I went to a meeting last night, which was open to the public, on replacement of some water lines that are critical to the Woodlands, to not only to the commerce area, but also to a hospital district area. And I think it's prudent that SJRA needs to take the action and replace that piping that needs to be replaced. We had an outside engineer that said that those pipes are in danger and it needs to be replaced. And I think it's prudent since this body is aware of a situation that could be very critical to the Woodlands and to residents and to people. And I think to get them to keep holding off until they get approval from us is just not the prudent thing to do.
Thank you, sir. Update from Region H, Mr. Bredehoff. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. President, trustee, members, senior staff of Woodlands Water. At this time, we have no update. Our next quarterly meeting, which would be in the third quarter, will be August. So we'll be back in August to report on that meeting. If there's anything noteworthy that takes place from today through July, we'll be back at the July trustee meeting to share the update to the board. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Miss Imelda Diaz, is she in the room? Alternate trustee Gaynor, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Diaz had planned to be here. That was the last communication I had. She must have been delayed en route. I don't have an update for you, therefore, other than to advise that the next meeting of the Sanders Interregional Flood Planning Group will be August 14th. Thank you.
If Ms. Diaz shows, perhaps we can find appropriate time if it's available. I'd hate to have her come all this way and not to deliver her update if she had something. Okay, the consent agenda. pages 1 through 14 in our meeting packet. I had something.
I have one item just noting my presence at the meeting.
Move to accept as presented with that exception.
Oh, sorry, that's right. Sorry.
I guess my question is on page number 6, that we're short 3 million on revenue totals, primarily from the reimbursements from the districts. Why are we delinquent on that, Maureen or Eric? And it says that if that's added back in, we're well in surplus, $100,000 or so, but.
Yeah, that's a factor of us doing some of the work. We had a lot of ditch work to do. We didn't do it in the first half of the year because we were in the middle of ditch assessments. So as we got further along in the ditch assessments, we started doing work here more recently. So that'll be in there. And then also the meters. Remember, we ordered the meters. It was a 6-month turnaround. That started coming in and now we're starting to do the work. So you're going to start seeing that catch up
Okay.
as we've gotten more.
I figured it would catch up, but I was just a little surprised that, that's quite a shortfall.
What we do in the budget is if it's something like that and it's not a specific known time frame that we're going to do it in, we 12th it.
Okay.
And so if we don't know when we're going to use it.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other? Yes, sir, Mr. Houck?
Page 3, item 10. The summary on this was there was no action taken. And then I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I thought the action was the MUDs were going to have a discussion on the FFDUEs and we would bring it back to the June meeting.
Or SFDUE of it.
Didn't we agree to take it to the MUDs?
Yeah, and they all voted to do the other.
Okay, so there, the action was take it to the MUDs and then let the MUDs provide feedback.
Feedback is, he's gonna.
Well, this says there was no action.
That's probably right.
I guess I don't get from this that there was anything sent to the MUDs to take action on. And that the decision wasn't not to do anything. The decision was move it to the MUDs and let the MUDs provide feedback to the trustees. Isn't that
That's what we agreed on. And that's what happened, right?
right?
And the MUDs just voted on it directly, 100%.
Your point is that it says here that there was no
No
action
action.
taken.
Yeah.
That's not.
I think the action occurred at the MUD level.
Yeah,
We corrected it.
there was an agreement to push it to the MUDs, whether that was formal action or not. I don't know that we took a formal vote on it. I don't believe we did. It was an agreement to move it to the MUDs, who then took action.
Okay. So you want to capture the fact that we agreed to move it to the MUDs?
I mean, we can, that's fine.
Just, it's not like we walked away from it.
Right. Good.
Sure.
You can take care of that, shall we? That it was moved to the MUDs for decision and decision. Okay, Imelda has shown up. She's taken that long drive up here. We're not going to shut her out.
Do we need to do?
Oh, I'm sorry. One thing at a time, right? Okay. Any further questions on the consent agenda?
We have a second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion from trustee Howe, second, no, excuse me. Martin and then Howe, second. Good. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion passes. Now, Ms. Diaz.
Sorry
evening.
for being late. I was running. Actually, as far as the flood planning group, we have not met since May 1st. That was the last meeting. And I believe I sent some updates to Neil and hopefully you share with them. Not a whole lot has happened since then. They're moving along with the planning process. They have their website up and they're requesting comments from the community and trying to get models, information, trying to determine what the flood risks are and just getting projects ready for the next cycle. So that's what's going on with that. Now, I know Neil had asked specifically about the list of projects of FMEs that's listed on the website. So there's a list of FMEs that's listed on the website, and what the planning group is doing is they received money from the water board for $942,000. So they're trying to rank all of the FMEs that they have in the plan. All of those FMEs that are less than $100,000, and then they're ranking them, and then they're going down the list. And they're calling the sponsors and making sure that the sponsors are still interested. One, two, that they haven't already been completed or gotten additional funding, like the flood control district, for example. They've already progressed a lot of their projects, so those will fall off the list. And then they're just going to confirm the scope of the project, if it has anything changed, etc. And whatever projects are still viable, they're going to use that $942,000 to hopefully move those projects from an evaluation to a project level. So that's what that list is there for. I don't know if that answered your question, or if you had any questions about that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Imelda. I have no questions. Anyone have anything for Imelda? Good.
Well, I guess I could add to that, that once they do go down the list, and if some projects have fallen off, or anything has changed, they're going to go back and revise that list and then bring it back to the board with a new prioritization of those projects. And then they'll get approval to move forward with whatever top ranking
Do you
project.
have anything in the upper watershed that you think
I-
either could be included or is in and might fall off?
I did not see, but I will look through it. I know all of them had to be less than 100,000, so I didn't see anything really in this area, but I'll double check once those projects start falling
I don't know
off.
if there's many for less than 100,000.
I know. Most of them are FME, so yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Imelda.
Okay, thank
Glad
you.
you made it. Sorry.
Have
Okay.
a good night.
Good night.
Okay, so that brings us to agenda item number 8. Receive and the regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report. Mr. Meeks, good evening.
So next month, call Ed Shackelford. Not much to present this month. It's been a pretty good month, right? Production started to increase, but with the rains, it's going to decrease a little bit. Surface water blend is still roughly 50-50. No violations, no occurrences of any nature that's really noteworthy, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about the water plant and the change in volumes, like over the year, not just us, but the whole system? You have an average of about 13 million gallons per day. And then
Are you talking in GRP?
GRP, I'm talking only GRP.
Okay.
Can you talk about how the other participants may vary? And so what's the low, what's the high? Can you describe?
Like annual average? Or-
Yeah, well, not annual, monthly or quarterly average that, obviously we know the annuals, is it 13 million gallons per day?
Yeah, it's been 13.2 for the last 2 to 3 years.
So how does that vary between high and low through through the year?
So through the year, generally the lowest we go is about 9 MGD. The highest we go is around 28, 8.5 MGD.
That's capacity. What drives that 28?
Weather.
Whether so it's summer or is it?
Yeah, summer. And so in the wintertime, right, demands are always lower. So in the wintertime, generally the lowest we're around is 9, sometimes 8. If we go below 9, then we have to recirculate water back to the lake. So you're basically pumping it to send it back to the lake. In the summertime, you can go to 28, 29 because the internal processes does not always let you go to 30 MGD. That's usually summer 2023 with the drought, right? So people turn on irrigations, sprinkling, stuff like that. So it goes up from there.
The other 6 participants, do they have enough well capacity? Are they describe their well capacity in relation to the 23? Are they out of capacity? So they pull groundwater and
So the average blend is roughly, Woodlands receives 50%, everybody else receives 35%.
But they save it up and use it in the summer, is that?
No, it's generally an average throughout the entire season or the entire year.
But you get up to 28.
Right.
So how do you get up to 28 if, you
So
know?
everybody's given a min and a max, right?
Right.
So they cannot go, I think the Woodlands is roughly 5 or 6 MGD is the lowest y'all can receive. Your max is, I think, 13.5 or something. And so that's just the min and the max, but I have an estimated daily average flow. For the Woodlands, I want to say it's 7.8 MGD. And so throughout the year, whatever y'all need is what we send based off of weather conditions. We do have some entities that do what I call stockpile. So they'll purposely use less and request less in the winter and then save it for the summer, just because they know they're going to need it because they don't have the well capacity. But pretty much everybody else just, we set the flow off 50 or 35% based off of what yesterday did. So if yesterday you did 10, then today we assume you're going to do 10. So your flow, if you're 35%, is 3.5.
Thanks.
First, I have a question. Hopefully you can educate me in that it's somewhere else, but I was a little concerned on page 24 that you have an October 1st interest and payment schedule for $25.6 million. I know that you're owed 30.5 million. And I don't see 25.6 anywhere in this report that you've got the money to pay that bond payment.
October, so that's, how long is that? 5 months? 3, 15, 15, 20. Yeah, we'll be good. So we collect roughly 3 million a month to put into there. And so that's roughly.
Separate account?
Yeah.
Okay, we just don't see it.
So
Okay,
it's pulled from O&M and it's put somewhere. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So you're not going to see it in these financials. It's essentially pulled over to the debt service reserve or whatever.
Debt service reserve, okay. So you're good. No need for concern.
We're good. And
You
then
don't
this
have to
one
sell
is
anything.
debt service, not the reserve, the reserve.
Debt service.
So we're good.
Very good.
We'll
Hey,
take
Chris.
an extra check if you like.
You have a new project on here, I think the Woodlands, the digital water system.
Digital water, final phase.
You talked about the integration here with, I think, Woodlands Water, right? Or is that within your own system?
That's all within the
It's all
SBA.
within yourself. Okay, okay. And this is the last phase of the whole project, is that right?
This is the last planned phase. And so the first 2 phases were basically asset management, building the foundation and the structure for this phase. And so this basically says, we're going to take all that other data, incorporate the water model, add in predictive analysis to look at pressures, water quality across the system. We're adding in roughly 11 chlorine analyzers across the system as well. And basically, right now we have 5 chlorine analyzers across the entire Woodlands. We're going to add another 11 for 16 because we're trying to see water quality, water age, TTHMs across the entirety on almost a real-time basis. And so that's essentially what this last phase is going to do.
As I recall, we were also going to utilize that data real time in case something happens like happened a year or so ago, where we'd be able to see where it's going, where the chlorine's going.
Correct. That's the predictive. We're going to factor in a lot of external data to figure out it's a 12-month rolling average long LRAA or something like that. So we're going to be doing that as well. Plus also with this digital water at the very end of it, once we've got everything wrapped up and done, we have budgeted and planned in there to bring the digital water to y'all for a presentation so y'all can see everything about it, what it's done, what the predictive analysis is, and then take it to our board as well.
Is this a vendor provided product, or is this legacy kind of, or custom built and for you guys?
So it's Power BI, so it comes free with our 365.
Yeah.
We just need help with the
Yeah,
implementation.
okay. And you'll maintain it then?
You got it?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Chris, but what about physical security and cybersecurity? Do these additional points that you're talking about going up to 16, does that increase our exposure?
Not really, because it all goes through the same system we've already had with all the same protocols, cybersecurity, firewalls, everything in line. And the other sites, they're already on our sites. The physical security is already there. Some places have cameras, most of it's fences, water wires. So the water plants are as secure as we can make them for the time being. Then the cybersecurity side, no different from everything else we already have.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Meeks? Thank you, sir. It brings us to agenda item number 9, receive updates from Cornerstone. Now that has been deferred to July. Mr. Asala was summoned to Washington DC. So we,
Is that the consultant,
yes, sir, it is for
the lobbyist?
correct. Yeah. You had to make an emergency trip to Washington today and
She got the
he'll,
suitcase.
he'll be here, I guess. Let the record show I didn't say that. That was Smith. Okay, where are we? Agenda item number 10. Receive the proposed 2026 SJRA Woodlands Division budget. Haley, please. Haley, you changed.
Well, you know, it was supposed to be Ed and anyway. So I just wanted to point out on page 30 of your packet, we've offered a cover letter. And what we're looking at is kind of like what we've done with the project plan before is Haley's going to present the budget to the trustees in its full detail. She's also going to be at each of the MUD meetings with us next week. And so to save on time and allow more time for questions, if your MUD wants to have the presentation, we're happy to give the presentation. If your MUD does not want the presentation, then we're there to answer any questions that you have. So if you would read this, and if any of your directors want to view this video later on to get the full detail and save time at the MUD meetings, that's fine. Once again, if you want us to present, that's fine.
Can we, are right now take a poll and I'll say that MUD 36, I'm gonna ask Shelley to, when she sends out the notification that they are required to look at the video and we don't want a presentation.
Works for me. All in favor? Aye.
So no, I just. Well, that's MUD 36. We're in, and I'm gonna ask to Shelley when she sends out the notification on Friday for the packets that they are instructed to look at the video.
And everything that's in the packet tonight will also be in MUD packets.
Yeah, and it's on everyone's agenda for the MUDs, but you can choose.
We can defer.
Of course, or use that for question, whatever. At least you'll be able to talk about it at the MUD level.
Right. In other words, if they got questions, she can, but they'll already have reviewed it rather than having them sit through.
So can we clarify that? So either Shelley or Eric, will you explicitly send something to the trustees or to the MUD directors saying, please review the video?
It's gonna be on the agenda.
6 request.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a great.
Sends out everybody on Friday afternoon a notification that
Right.
the agendas are out. And she can include that if she would in that email on Friday to instruct all the directors.
Yeah, we can add a note reminder. That's fine.
Otherwise, just having it on the agenda. They won't know to go watch the video.
Sure. We'll do it.
I was gonna call everyone, to just get their opinion on, no, seriously. To just see, kind of explain it one-on-one without violating any walking quorum or anything like that.
You can't call each one of them, can you?
It's legal.
Is that the way to do it?
It's walking.
I didn't intend on doing that anyway. Good catch.
So I explicitly asked Eric or Shelley to do it.
Yeah,
We'll do it. We got it. We got it.
very good. Very good. So now, Jamie, please.
Hey, you said Haley all.
Oh, I'm sorry, Haley.
Jamie's my boss, so she does exist.
Been a good day.
Shelley assisted me in getting you a digital copy, so it should be in your email.
Great, thank you very much.
So just before we get into the PowerPoint to run through some of the handouts I passed out. So the first one is the 2017 bond report. This was asked of us at the audit committee meeting last week, just to show what we've spent the bond funds on, what we plan to spend it on, and then what's the outstanding principal left on that specific bond. Just to say specifically, this is not the capacity bonds. This is a different bond that y'all pay for through your water and sewer rates. So I just wanted to provide that out to everybody since that was asked last week at the audit thing. But that has nothing to do with the budget, because happens to be the The next handout that I have is this thick packet. The first 3 pages is in your packet that WWA gave you. I just went ahead and printed another copy so you had all the budgets in one spot. This is our budget packet, so it's got every fund that y'all interact with for our Woodlands division. So the operating, the R&R fund, the future facilities fund, the debt service fund for that 2017 bond I just talked about, or the 2017 bond fund, 2017 debt service fund, and the 2 capacity funds, the water supply fund and the waste disposal fund. All of that for our 26 budget year is in this packet. Okay. Now on to the presentation. So our presentation is in y'all's packets. It starts on page 31. Okay, Maureen's helping me out. Got it up there too, so it should be everywhere. So the first slide here, just to talk through our timeline is what Chris already kind of said, so I'll go quickly through it. We're presenting today, next week at the MUDs upon request. I'm happy to present, I'll be there. We are asking for y'all to direct your trustee at the July MUD meetings, for them to vote at the August trustee meeting on our budget, and then that goes to our board in August. So the next slide, this is our rates that we're proposing for the next year. So you'll notice on the left-hand side, our current rate, we are not proposing any changes to our current rate. So the current wholesale water rate of $2.73 will remain the same in the next year. And then the wholesale wastewater rate will remain the same at $5.65 as well. Down there at the bottom, this was a request of our general manager just to show what the total cost of water is for y'all. This is not a new rate, don't get that confused. This is just a total of taking our wholesale water and the GRP blended fee, adding them together to show you that your total cost of water is $5.66 per 1,000 gallons.
Is it 66 or 65? There's just 2 numbers on there.
They're very similar.
Is it just rounding? There's just doing it to you?
No,
Those are 2 different numbers.
they're 2 different numbers, and I wondered if that was going to confuse people too, but
So- Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, so that close.
I did the same thing whenever I added. I was like, "Ooh, this is too many numbers." But not to be confused, that is not a new rate we're charging y'all. It is just so that you can see how much the water costs y'all. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that our blended fee is going down 4 cents. So the blended fee is going from $2.97 to $2.93. This is that surface water conversion fee that is the GRP water to Woodlands that y'all see on y'all's water bills. And just to point out also, the gray boxes are the new rates that we're proposing. And those are also on the other handout in the top left-hand corner. So the next slide, we just kind of wanted to show what this actually means to a user. So we took the average residential bill in the Woodlands based on the numbers we get from WWA for y'all's average consumption of 10,000 gallons a month for water, 6,000 gallons a month for wastewater. And as you can see, with the wholesale water and the wastewater, wholesale wastewater rates not changing, the impact to a user is a decrease in their water bill by about 40 cents per month. And then also just a caveat, this does not include any changes that WWA or y'all, the MUDs put on the water bills. So on the next slide, the base of this is a chart that we've shown for years just to show that where our rates started about a decade ago and where we are now and the changes over the years. At the audit committee last week, we were asked to compare our rate changes with inflation rates just to see how they lined up. So I've added on this chart, the yellow line is your inflation rate. And then the other dashed lines are the changes in our water and wastewater rates over the years. The main thing to point out is inflation goes up and our wastewater or water rates change in the same manner as the inflation rate. The only exception to that is FY20. And that's one of those years that we held off the rate changes for long and we pushed things off, that a rate increase was inevitable that year despite inflation not increasing.
When did the GRP plant come online? I see you got it in 2017.
Yeah, it came online in 2016. 2015.
Q4 2015.
So up next, we have our water.
Before we leave that,
Oh, yeah.
that slide, if you could go back to it, thank you. I just did a quick calculation on the wastewater. I wanted to know what the annual rate of increase was starting in 2017 and going up to 2026. And what I found is, my slide rule is correct. The wastewater averages about 3.1%, give or take, per annum. And the water is about 3.0%, give or take. So from my recollection of what CPI was in those years, I think they're well within those parameters.
Pretty good.
I just, from the feedback from the audit committee, this is a positive message.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to communicate to the community that we're being respectful in their spending. We're trying to hold costs down, and we are consistent with inflation. Okay, so I think I appreciate you adding the CPI information on here in this. I don't know, you guys that were on the committee with us, I mean, that was the message, right? That we agreed that this was something that we could comfortable sharing with the community and trying to encourage them that, yes, we are being careful with the money.
Okay, I can pull all of those numbers since I had a 2-hour print deadline. So on this slide, we have the water demands. So on the right-hand side, you'll see our demands for FY 26 listed out there. And then in the chart here, this was one that we got a lot of feedback from the audit committee, and I think that you were right that we weren't showcasing enough on it, and so we went back and changed some things. So one of the things that we're focused on this one is that 5-year average column. That's the column that Chris and his team used to figure out our demands for the next year, since individual years can be a little too volatile sometimes. So the 5-year average is the one that they're basing their demands on. But we also included the prior 5 years because we really wanted to show the water loss percentage decrease over the years and really show what years that was happening in, because there is a reason for that. And that's y'all's AMI meters that y'all put in around 21, 22, you can see the water loss dropping off during those years. So
And that's the meters.
yes, the AMI meters, they really help track the water a little bit better so that we can bill for on every drop of water, but most of it, water loss or unaccounted for water. Also on the right-hand side, you'll see our water loss percentage is staying the same at 4%. And then our target blend is staying the same at 50%. That's the blend ratio between groundwater and surface water.
Sorry, on the water law, is there a fiscal year 25?
There is not
Water
on there,
is-
only because we're still in that year.
So we don't have a year to date. So the year to date we see in the monthly report
It's on there, but
bump
we,
up just a little bit, probably. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
So the 5-year average that you're using, obviously this can be a controversial topic because of you're guessing what the weather's going to be, right? So how does this 5-year average compared with the 5-year average we rolled off last year, right? We had a 5-year average. So
and I don't, but it's something we can pull up and let Chris know.
I can kind of help. So the question was, how does this 5-year average compare to last year's 5-year average?
and what before you said, we've had surpluses the last 2 years,
Right.
and I realize it's difficult to predict water.
It is. And the biggest thing is, if you take a look, this year's is actually a little bit more. That's why the demands have gone up just slightly. But in the years prior, it's also, we have not always used the 5 year. Sometimes we have had to go to 6, sometimes we've gone to 3. Because if you look at FY 22 and 23, those green lines are off the charts. Those were both drought years. And so sometimes you have to change the average or reduce the number of years on the average just to make sure you're not including 2 years of drought in one normal year. But typically we do use a 5-year average in the Woodlands unless we know there's major growth or something in the community, then we go to 3 or so.
Well, you brought the water loss down to the actual, you're not using a 5-year average on the water loss. You did that last year, which was great, right?
Right, so now we're down to 4%.
Yeah.
Now, one thing is, this does show the production is higher, sales also went higher. So it'd be interesting to go back to 21, and see what the revenues actually did at that point, to see if they actually went up when the water loss went down.
And this is groundwater or a company.
This is total demand. So green is going to be total water demand. The dark blue is going to be, Yeah, brown water, light blue, surface water.
Have you ever looked at how I guess the green line is affected by population growth? You guys kind of looked at that in terms of how much this is driven by, new drinkers?
We have, and that's one thing, if you go back, we've looked back from 2010 forward, at least I have, just in this general case of when I've been here. And you see the numbers are steadily going down year after year after year after year in the Woodlands, because we were producing and selling 5.8 to 5.9, almost 6 billion on average. But over the last 15 years, it's gone from a constant steady 5.9 to 6, down to where you see about 5.5.
It's conservation.
Some conservation, a lot of it had to do with the defined irrigation plan that y'all did a number of years ago. If conservation, so.
Also, when your when the water rates doubled with this surface water conversion fee, people got real conservative real quick. Amazing what price does to demand.
And we're starting to get in the 5-year averaging, we're starting to get further and further away from the AMIs, or the pre-AMI being a factor. So it should start to kind of level out more probably next year or the year after, when the pre-AMI situation is gone. We still have the commercial AMIs still going, but that's a smaller proportion.
But we're not using the 5-year average for water loss. We're using the actual 4%.
So up on our next slide, this is our demands for wastewater. Very straightforward, change 2.8 billion. And the demands for wastewater in the Woodlands, 2.7 or 2.8, but we're holding it consistent at 2.8. So up next, as y'all heard, Cornerstone is not coming this month, so they will be here next month. But this is something that y'all have requested in the past. So it is something that we're continuing to have in the budget for next year. So we just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention that the lobbyist will be in there for next year. So on this slide, this is one we started a few years ago, and so we've just kind of kept it. So this is really just highlighting any major changes in the budget, major changes being defined by budget lines with a plus or minus of 50,000 and a plus or minus of 20% change. So we've added it here. I will spare y'all and not read it to you, but I will give you a moment if you want to look at it and if you have any questions. But this is just budget line items that we've pulled out of our operating budget and added a little bit of a description to go into why they're changing the way they are.
Haley, you might mention the interest income and why it's so high.
Yep. So interest income is changing. This is a change in philosophy that we have in our department. Historically, we have not budgeted for interest income because it's one of those things. If accounting says, oh, we think we're going to make 200,000 next year and we don't, we have to go to Chris and say, what do you want to cut from your budget? And that's not a fun conversation. So historically, we have not budgeted for interest income. It is just what we make is what we make. And then now this year, because interest income has been so large, we've been doing so well with that. As you can see in our operating budget, we're at like $500,000 year to date on our operating funds. So we have decided to add a little conservative interest income budget in there. So that's why that says 4,000%, because there's a budget. Okay, go ahead.
I just had a question while I was reading this. The decrease in your benefit cost on insurance is something that you changed?
Not necessarily something we changed. The main difference in what's driving that decrease is last year we raised it either 9 or 10%. I keep getting that number mixed up, but we did have an increase last year in the budget. But whenever the actuals came in for the bill, it didn't increase at all. It came in at a 0% change. So part of this decrease is getting us back down to what our actual, what we're seeing in our actual expenses and getting our budget back in line with that.
Okay, because usually that's something that always goes up. I mean,
Yeah.
you never see it come down.
But it was because last year we basically over budgeted on accident. We're bringing it back down.
Do y'all offer health savings accounts?
We do not, because we don't offer a high deductible plan. We have a different version of a health savings account called a health care account. But we don't have a high deductible plan. But we do have a FSA. So yeah, we do have FSA.
Why don't you offer it? I mean, that's not how I understand. It's not your bailiwick, but.
No, so I'm very familiar with this lately because we just did our open enrollment. So let me tell you. But we have the healthcare account. And in my opinion, as an employee, the healthcare account benefits me more than the HSA account would. So the healthcare account, what it does is it comes in, my deductible is 6,000 for a single, since I'm just me on my insurance. And then once I pay $1,500, they pay the other 4,500. Instead of having a HSA where they give me $1,000 or $2,000 a year. So for the company, it probably offsets the same. But for an individual employee, whenever I need it, I have assistance.
Do you pay into the health care account? As an
No.
individual?
As an individual, no.
No, to the company does.
But that doesn't carry over to the next year, right?
No, it's if you need it, then
Whereas an HSA account, if you don't go to spend any of it, you accumulate it year after year. It's just like a health, it's just an IRA for healthcare.
yes, it,
I mean, you know, I don't have any dog in this fight. But,
yeah. No, I mean, the HSA is good. I was having conversations with my boss about this because she was like, what if we get rid of it? I'm like, no, I can get benefits to employees and it works out even for the employer.
well, for young people, you're a young person and anyway, I think it's give you an idea of the Spring Independent School District, who my stepson works for. They offer a HSA program, which he enrolls in real quick.
My husband does too, and then he has
No,
surgery every
yeah,
year,
for-
so the money's gone.
Well, that's but anyway, I just, for young people, it's,
Yeah,
you can end up with a lot of money if you're a healthy person.
yeah. No, it is a good benefit and there's some tax stuff in it, but
Only comment.
I won't continue. Okay, so was there any other questions on any changes that I had outlined? So then on the next one, just really quick, this is just a summary slide that we put in. This is a summary of all the categories that's on that operating budget handout. I don't have much to say about it other than you can see professional fees are going down, but that's outlined on the last slide about our engineering is going down because we had something in the budget this year that was a one-off project, so it's not continuing. And then also the lobbyist is under professional fees, or not lobbyist, the consultant, the public communications consultant. But other than that, I don't have really anything to say on this slide. It was just a summary for y'all to benefit. So on the next slide, this is kind of the same thing. It was just a summary for y'all's benefit, so you could see it. One big picture on the slides. So you will see that our change to fund balance is 0 for the FY26 proposed budget year. That is because we have to have a zero-based budget. If our revenue goes up or down, our expenses have to change by the same amount. So once again, this is just a summary to show y'all. And then that is my last slide. So with that, just to remind you that we are not changing the wholesale water or wastewater rates. And the TRP blended rate is slated to go down to 293, which is a decrease of 4 cents. And then I will be at the MUDS next week. And then in July, we will ask you to direct your trustee to vote at their August meeting. And then this goes to our board in August.
Chris, can you explain or tell us about the full-time equivalent employees and what was it last year? What is it going to be in 26?
I can't, she can.
Okay,
Yeah, she gathered that information after the audit committee's request. She has that.
Brought it up here and I forgot. Okay, so after the audit committee meeting, we did go back. That's one thing we do normally put in the slides, and I think this year we didn't just because our salaries wasn't a big change. So we kind of not neglected it, but chose to focus on other things. But I did go back and have a copy of it, but I only printed 1 copy. So if anyone wants to take a picture, you're welcome to. Otherwise I can get it sent out. But SCADA was our big change. SCADA changed by 1.35 FTEs. They're adding a person to help with some of their stuff.
Cybersecurity on the programming side.
And then our division direct went down 0.5. So the overall change was 0.5 of an increase to FTEs. So that's why you'll see in our salaries, it's not a large increase this year between the FTE change plus our 4% COLA, or not COLA, but
So
COLA.
that's an engineering increase.
So SCADA is not tech services. SCADA is just SCADA.
G&A.
Yeah.
It's G&A.
Yeah.
But technical services, the engineering, what did they change?
They went down 0.3.
Administrative is flat.
Admin services actually increased 0.2. Everything other than SCADA was less than 0.5 of an increase, and some went up, some went down, but like 0.25 was the average, little tweaks here and there.
We can get you a copy of this and send it out.
No, I just wanted to get a ballpark standing of it.
Now, they did go up a little bit overall, just, did you talk about management?
No, did not.
Okay.
But yeah, no, actually senior management went down 0.1.
So when the division went down overall, I think the entire employee count for the entire railroad authority went up 1. But temporarily 1.
That's it. Thank you very much, Haley. Appreciate it. Well done. Brings us to agenda item 11, the attorney's report. Brian Yates, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Well, thankful to say our legislative session has ended. A lot of the bills that we were tracking that were troublesome and problematic did not pass. A few of note that did pass that I think are overall good. House Bill 21 that we talked about that deal with HFCs and their ability to take multifamily projects tax exempt. The bill that reforms that process was passed and was signed by the governor. So we're very, very happy about that. That was a problem for a number of taxing jurisdictions. Also, the bill, Senate Bill 4, that increased the homestead exemption. This relates to school districts from 100 to 140. That passed. That will go to election. I think there's a constitutional amendment that's required for that. Also, House Joint Resolution 7 that dealt with redirecting a portion of the state sales tax and insurance premiums for a roughly $1 billion fund for water projects. That did pass as well, and will also be going for an election. So that's the brief summary. As usual, we will have our comprehensive legislative summary that will probably be ready for your July board meetings.
You think we're done with the sessions this year?
On anything that relates to us and special districts, yes. Now, might there be something that is particular to the governor that doesn't impact special districts? Possibly. That's all I have. Happy to answer questions, other questions if you have them.
For Attorney Yates. Hearing none, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
General Manager's report. Eric Peterson, please.
All right. Good evening. Couple things. You should have a GRP summary in front of you. Last meeting was on May 19th. You can see here in the summary, there was a new proposal for proposed total demand in 2026. Proposal would change from the 13.2 MGD to 15. That was subject to City of Conroe getting current. But that was a discussion to talk about, in fact, increasing the utilization of the facility on an annual average. Speaking of annual average, to David's question earlier, there was a conversation about, well, we keep hearing, 13.2, why don't you go more? Well, they are going more, but it's seasonal. So in the summer, as you heard earlier, the plant actually ramps up and down, but the annual average is that 13.2. There was Lone Star had one of their consultants come up and kind of take apart the presentation that the committee member gave at the previous meeting. Kind of picked apart different slides and gave his interpretation of how it should be read. There was a proposed topic of having the committee approve potential agenda items and future agendas. And that was not voted on to approve, so there was no acceptance of that. It contemplated having the committee have a majority vote to approve any given agenda item, and that didn't go over real well across the board, so that's.
Who proposed that?
It came from, I guess it came from Australia Legal.
I don't remember.
No, it wasn't one of the
It was
committee
not in
members.
favor
No.
of it.
Oh, no, not to my knowledge. It did, and again, not one of them was really in favor of it, so there was no motion to approve, which means that it died. There was discussion about, in the budget, that the city of that the GRP would need to start, I guess, paying the contract to utilize City of Houston's, water, from City of Houston share the water in the lake. It wasn't real clear, but we've confirmed and clarified since that would not, and the City of Houston water is much more expensive than utilizing SGRA's ownership, 1/3 ownership of the lake. And it wasn't real clear as to what that would do with the rate, but I confirmed after the fact that did not have an increase in the overall rate that the GRP will be charging.
They're absorbing that rate increase. It's about a little less than half a buck difference between Conroe provided water and Houston provided. And I believe they're absorbing that rate into population growth.
Yeah, increased revenue due to
Population growth.
That's right. That was what that's exactly right. So with that, myself, Kim and Brad met about a week or so ago just to kind of go over this as I can continue to commit to do. And I think we've had some great conversations, both rehashing the previous meeting and talking about future meetings. So obviously we'll continue to do that. The next meeting will be in a couple of weeks, June 23rd. Anything I missed?
I just want to, highlight what he mentioned about the rate. Earlier, this group talked about what our objectives were for the GRP. And one of them was, let's see if we can increase utilization of the plant. At that time, there was a lot of talk about, there's no way to increase the utilization of the plant. We can't increase throughput without impacting rates. And through a lot of discussion, lo and behold, they figured out a way to go from 13.2 to 15 on average basis, and the rates are staying the same, which is something that we'd been told they couldn't do. So this was a major breakthrough on their thinking as far as how they run the plant.
Add some clarity to that if you'd like.
Sure.
One of the things, when we were doing our forecasting previously, when somebody would come ask for surface water, or whether to receive surface water to begin with or additional surface water, we always presumed that groundwater usage would be reduced. And so we're now taking the position of, if you're going to take surface water, you've got to maintain a minimum groundwater pumpage so that it is not impacting the 73 groundwater users. And so no negative impact to the rate.
So you're going up on both of them, which allows you to keep the rates constant.
Let's say, like, for example, if a deal were cut with City of Conroe, they would have to maintain a minimum groundwater pumpage, even with a increase in surface water rate, or with us, with the Woodlands, or with Oak Ridge North, or with any of the other surface water users.
Which is consistent with what Conroe needs, which is they need more total water.
But in the past, we were looking at it from the perspective, well, if they're increasing surface water, they're reducing groundwater. That's not true.
Right. So
I realize the negotiation Conroe and SRA are private, but they understand what they have to do, and you've given them the option. Any feel how many more months it'll take to come to?
No feel whatsoever.
No feel whatsoever.
Yes.
What's the, I realize obviously Spear is the tip of the spear in this negotiation, but who has the approval authority when he presents a published agreement?
The board ultimately. Same with Conroe, they would have their city council. So there'd have to be mutual agreement.
So throughput through GRP does increase, let's say, over time. Would we expect just a flattening of rates, or would we ever see a reduction in rate as
Yeah.
fixed costs get spread out over larger volumes?
Yeah.
Versus the variable costs?
So what, as was explained earlier, a lot of the peaking that happens at the GRP is because of summer use.
Makes sense.
If we went to something that was just steady production, 25 MGD every day, all day long, and had customers to use all that 25, then the customers would have to peak off their wells. And then we might be able to establish a little bit better rate.
Which is what originally was the plan.
Well, yeah, and that's the way it started.
Originally, that was the plan.
And that's how it started out
Right.
when there was a groundwater reduction requirement. But when the rules changed, we had to change the way we operated the plant. So now as people are coming in and asking for more surface water and we are able to adjust our thinking and our planning accordingly.
Just as a history. 2025, we were going to be opening the second 30 million a gallon a day plant this year. That was the original plan. Yes, we were going to be peaked out at this plant and we would be under construction and it would be open up. Amazing how.
That's they plans.
That's right. And politics took over.
Just had one other item to bring to your attention, update on our billing software changeover. Give you an update on that. We're going through 2 months now. And through this 2 months, we've had, I'll say, some hurdles and some fine tuning glitches, whatever you want to call them, that we've continued to work through. And it's of the 34,000 accounts that we have. It's probably affected in the 500 or 600 or so, and it has to do with the online payment and our bank and system acknowledging that it came in and vice versa. So we've been working through that. I wanted to let you know that because tomorrow we will be sending out a notice to the entire Woodlands customer base, just a notification that we're going through that change, that we apologize for any inconveniences to those that it affected, and that just thank you for your patience, kind of just to give them an understanding that we are kind of working through this change. We do think that we're getting over most of those things and starting to minimize them in reoccurrences. So, and I suspected there would probably be a 3 to 6 month or so kind of fine tuning. And, we had 9 months of testing and some of these things just didn't surface in the testing. So
Is this the first communication you've pushed out to everyone on this topic?
no,
I got hit by a couple, people saying, you're getting the calls, I know, and
yeah,
gave me the answer, but I didn't know if they'd.
we've been sending specific message. Well, in the beginning, we've sent quite a few messages about your account numbers changed, whatever some of the other specific, what to expect.
Your account number was the biggest.
And then those that did get affected by some of these issues, we pinged them directly. This is more of a thank you for your patience. We apologize for the inconvenience, kind of wholesale massive send out.
Email or.
It'll be through our WaterSmart portal. We're up to 78% membership or sign up. We were at 19% 2 years ago, so we really ramped that up.
That's great.
It is creating a side effect that perhaps we didn't envision, which is now that everybody has the tool, they're calling us more to ask questions about the tool, or hey, can you check? I think I have a leak, or hey, I got this, whatever. So it's actually causing our staff to be pretty overloaded. That the budget software, the billing software glitches that we've had, as well as the water smart increased calls are kind of taxing our team right now. So we're trying to get through it. We're going to utilize some temp situations just to kind of get us over the hurdle. And we're looking at maybe some adjustments in budget next year on the employee side, but we'll see.
That's a good problem to have, right?
It is.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the change in 12% water loss to 4%, and that 8%, that's a whole month of like free water that we use. That's just
And we
amazing.
continue-
It's amazing.
Well, and there's one in here this month. I mean, we continue to get feedback from the customer that, hey, thank you for this system because it found my leak.
Yeah.
You know, it happens every day. We get feedback from it. So it does work if you use it.
I've got 2 notifications and they were right both times. It was one of them was a faulty valve in the toilet flush valve, and another one was a outdoor hose that I stuck out in the yard and well, no, I didn't forget. I actually just didn't get it all the way off.
So, and I limit set at how many gallons per
I
day?
think it's 8 gallons an hour.
Oh,
I
okay.
think is what it said.
You choose to get out.
No, that was the notification.
Notification.
It was 5 gallons an hour, 8 gallons an hour, continuous for a period of time.
Mine just tells me how many gallons I use per day.
No, this one
I
just
get a warning over 500
says,
a day.
hey, you need to go check. We think you got a leak. Of course, it's all automated.
And our team can go in and look at the hourly flows that are coming in, particularly on continuous flow. And they can actually just by the amounts and what the bar chart's showing them, they can actually tell that one looks like a toilet. This is definitely a sprinkler. I mean,
Right.
they can actually,
Right.
they have enough, experience now that they can actually, I mean, they're not always right 100%, but they can kind of say, I think this one's a toilet here. Go check that out.
Well, also after did you find a leak? And then it says, you got a check mark.
Yeah.
Was it toilet? Was it this? Was
Yeah,
it that?
yeah.
So I'm sure then AI probably uses that.
The system will learn with you.
Yeah, it's learning.
Yep, it will.
I actually got one for you. My neighbor is actually walking the Appalachian Trail. And he's been going for a couple of months now. And last month he sent me a text. He said he received a notice from Woodlands Water that he used 3,300 gallons yesterday. And he asked me if I would go over and check, and I went inside his house, went upstairs. The flapper on the toilet was wide open, and it's just pouring down in there. Now, he's on the trail, but he got a notice. And first, in fact, that thing could have just kept going and going and going.
Huge.
I had a neighbor who was on a cruise. He got a notice and he couldn't, and we couldn't get into his house. So I just went out to the street and turned off his water since he was gone. And that solved it. I don't know what he found when he got back, but.
Value of water smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Positive stories. Great.
So I wanted y'all to hear that because it's before you see it tomorrow, know that it's coming, and then I'll bring it up with your boards next week. They will have seen it by then, but that's all I have.
Questions? Good.
Any further progress on SFDUEs in that program?
In process.
Okay. So the 2-month probably is extended then?
No, I think we're still working towards that.
Brings us to agenda item 13, the ad hoc committees or staff or ad hoc committees or staff reports. Any staff reports? No. Okay, the personnel committee did not meet, so there's no report. The audit and finance committee did meet on June 5th. Trustee Wilson?
As you said, we met on June 5th to go over the budget. We made several suggestions for presentation and continue to support the budget.
Well, that was the consensus was to support the budget to the MUDs and to our trustee brothers here. Okay, the Public Education Committee met today.
We did indeed.
Trustee Gainer.
Yes, just a brief summary here. So materials for community outreach, continuing development, including those for social media, educational videos, and a GIS-based interactive map tool. There are also revisions primarily for the community working group in regards to meetings in a box and a digital toolkit. There's a soft release on that coming up. The CWG will have its next meeting on July the 1st. As part of this meeting, Corollo engineers will present a summary of their assessment of wastewater treatment facility number 1, which you will have seen in a lot of detail. And the presentation will focus on the current structural, mechanical, and electrical conditions of the plant. And this is intended to complement the tour that the CWG had of the treatment plant on May the 13th. So they saw it. Now they're going to hear from the engineering consultant what the findings are from that perspective.
And if I could add to that, there will not be any discussion on capacity because SFDUE is kind of ongoing, and there will be no talk about any dollars because y'all haven't seen that yet.
Right.
Both of those will be cut out of that. There will be more to talk about the condition of what they saw, and that's, you know, along the lines of what you already saw as far as the presentation that was given to you 2 months ago, I believe. Yeah. So it won't be as in depth probably as I saw it.
This continues our self-imposed policy, I guess, to always be behind information that's being shared with trustees and MUD directors. So we'll be lagging month, 2 months in getting information out to the public, but it's essential that you see all this first. Consider what you're being given and or decisions have to be made regarding that information. So yeah, we want to make sure we don't get ahead of ourselves. That's what I have.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
question for Trustee Gainer. I thought last night's meeting was a kind of watershed moment with our thinking on AC pipeline. Major conclusion that age is not the dominant factor on condition, and the need to replace all AC pipeline is not what we thought it was. Are we going to include that, update our communication to the community that, some of the things we've been saying about 50-year end of life, and maybe we need to rethink that? And
yeah, that was included in the discussion. I didn't report on that because the report isn't finalized yet, and I want to be sure whatever the decisions that come out of last night's presentation are actually taken by the board trustees and the MUD boards. So, like I said, I don't want to get into presenting that information until you all have made decisions regarding the AC pipeline. And actually it's a system-wide because last night's presentation also included recommendations on the
PCB,
the Woodlands Parkway line. So it's we got to be thinking system. But yeah, I agree with you that absolutely. Another important data point is key in the condition assessment, as we all voted on to do. Of course, it didn't come free. It was what? How much was that? 1.5 million budgeted. So yeah. So there is definitely a value of information assessment to be reflected on, particularly when you look at the potential benefit of having a well-structured approach to developing 7 projects that will be taking place roughly over the next 10-year planning cycle. So I take your point, but like I said earlier, we should be following you all.
Yeah,
getting information out.
I just think if we need to check that a lot of the key messaging has been 50 years into life. Place. And the message last night was age is not a good indicator of condition.
Yeah, one of the items today was update from Woodlands Water, the June 10 HDR Old Mud presentation, WLWA project updates and inclusion of same in educational outreach. So it is on our radar,
Okay.
and I take your point, that will be included. Of
Okay,
course,
great, thanks.
from my perspective, I would like to include more information on the geology and some of the chemical interactions that occur on the sulfate, and the shrink and swell and all that good stuff that happens to these brittle pipes. So yeah, good point. Thank you.
Okay, Brian, no need for, okay, that brings us to item 16. Discuss matters for future agenda. I have one that I'd like to bring for discussion and action to remove the hold on the town center waterline easements project. We could put that onto next month's agenda. Anybody else?
Does that include the easement? Is it the entire thing?
Just this
easement.
particular
The
project.
easement.
Just the easement?
Yes,
Okay.
just the easements.
Like, I don't know, whether we put agenda on it, but you know, if you look at our website, and you try to find our, let's say, Woodlands email address, it's noted, I don't believe there's any way to be found. But we have a page, right, in which we tell people, you know, here are your directors and all this. And I think we should add a column that says, here's your email address for your director. We each have an email address, and I don't believe there's anywhere in the system, at least I haven't found.
Yeah, there's
And I've
another,
had several people call me saying, how do I contact my director?
there's another MUD that's asked about this, and we've had some serious cybersecurity concerns. Not all directors are using, some are using Woodlands Water, some aren't. And so we can bring that up at the MUD level.
I'll be honest with you, I've asked some directors about, you know.
We don't have a problem.
No, but do you want to put your personal, and I would say pretty much people I've talked to said, no, I don't want to do that. But we have a Woodlands Water email address, and I guess like for me, it would,
Yeah,
you know, if you put it up there, I'll put it on my phone and I'll look for email, but right now we don't. So if anybody wants to call, you have to call office here, contact you. I think I've had complaints. And
Somebody calls and asks specifically, do you have a policy given an email?
So it's probably better, I mean, those are requests for an agenda item. I know we're kind of starting to dive into discussion on an item that's not on the agenda.
So
So
you want to have that up there for next, and how would you phrase that?
discuss inclusion of individual MUD directors, WWA email address on.
That's very specific. Why don't we just say, talk about adding director contact information. That's a little.
I'm happy with that.
Okay,
Don't get too, detailed.
Yeah.
got it, Shelley? Good, very good. Anything else?
So question.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate the request to discuss town center. Based upon what we heard last night, town center and Woodlands Parkway are both high priority, equal priority. Are we taking any action on the HDR findings as a whole? Are we going to do piecemeal, break town
I
center?
thought, my thought was, since there wasn't really a project set yet, let's get the easements done first if we can. And then we can, because it's what, 97% design. I'd love to get it going. I mean, if you're suggesting that we take the whole.
What's your motion?
No, no,
is
my-
purchase of easements.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's the only project that is shown that I see, you know.
Purchase of easements.
Yes.
And I think Ed said before that there's some easement work to do based on what the county is gonna do on Grogan's Mill that may need to be redone. Right? If it
It's
gets,
the widening.
if it gets
project.
widened,
Yeah.
then they gotta do another.
And also, as mentioned last night, we have put an item on your MUD agendas to be able to discuss last night's presentation in a general sense. You don't want to talk about that's fine, but you'll have an item there to talk about it. If something comes up as far as project identification or timing or whatever else we want to go, because that is kind of the next step, is we're going to have to figure out, okay, we have this report, it suggests some things, what next?
Yeah.
Right,
Back on
and so,
I mean,
at least this will start that
yeah,
conversation.
if you want to bring up another thing to try to get the whole thing offline, or, you know, trustee Lashevsky in his public comments, you know, he identified, and we all kind of agreed that, you know, coming out of the report was a lot of good things, like you said, that age isn't necessarily the governing criteria for failure, but just to get these things off dead center. You know, we can talk about them, you know, but talk, discuss and act.
So maybe
Take
next
the
month,
handcuffs off the project so that we can get going.
I think we need to discuss it with the MUDs.
well, which is on the schedule to talk to them like next week.
I don't know what anybody's reaction is going to be until we get it
Right.
to the MUD.
Right, and that's on.
That's why I put it on there.
That's right.
Yeah, but there's,
I think that's what-
so there's nothing that the MUD discussions get brought back to this group, which is, if we're okay with that, that's, I'm okay.
It could be. I mean, if there's enough that I see that occurs at the mud level that we need to bring it back here, I can make that decision. We can put it on a trustee agenda.
But right now, the only thing that'll be on the agenda will be the discussion on town center.
Correct.
Easements.
Easements.
Just the easements.
Just the easements.
Not the whole
Not
project.
not the whole project. That was my question earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the whole project's gotta come from the river authority. Because they're gonna spend the money and doing the work, so basically they gotta make a proposal.
And they're gonna put their budget together at the end of this year for fiscal 27, when it'll be done. So that's their timing, right?
Okay.
I think if we get a
I think we're
little
good.
head start on the easements and then they can walk, because there was discussions earlier that it is 97% design, but there's gonna have to be some redesign because of the road widening and other things. So let's get going with getting the easements if we can, you know, if we can come to a conclusion.
Counties watching, bogus.
That's what was reported. It's a plan.
Well, I think it was on the road bond, but the commissioner said he's not doing it.
This commissioner did, right?
Yeah.
I think what Ed was thinking, well, we've got several commissioners coming down in the future.
Yeah.
If we're gonna get easement, we probably need to widen it.
Yeah.
To prepare for 10 years down the road or something, right?
Great. Anybody got anything else? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.